Hello guys. So now we shall be discussing regarding the external features of the hindbrain. Hindbrain is also called as rhombencephalon. We shall be discussing the external features of hindbrain or rhombencephalon, or also called as rhombencephalon. So what are the features of your hindbrain or rhombencephalon, guys? What are the external features of your hindbrain or rhombencephalon? So regarding these external features of hindbrain or rhombencephalon, you have got three important. What are those three important parts? Here, the first important part which we shall be discussing over here will be the pons. Okay, so we shall discuss the external features of the pons, and then we'll go on to the next topic, that is medulla oblongata. So first of all, when we discuss regarding the pons, first of all you have to look at the pons from the lateral view. Okay, because the pons is in connection with the cerebellum from the lateral view. So in the lateral view, you can very clearly visualize how is pons related with the cerebellum. So first of all, if you look at the picture on from the lateral view, let me draw this down. That this particular picture which I'm drawing right now is your midbrain. This is your midbrain. So just below that, you have got another important structure. This is called as your pons. And below the pons, another important structure is there, medulla oblongata, which continues as spinal cord. And here, exactly here, you have got this particular structure. What is this? This particular structure over here is called as your cerebellum. Okay, so this particular structure over here is called as your cerebellum. Okay, now few important things you need to know. Midbrain is attached to the cerebellum with the help of a group of fibers, and this is called as superior cerebellar peduncle. Okay, in the same way, the pons is attached to the cerebellum with the help of a group of fibers called as middle cerebellar peduncle, and in the same way, the medulla oblongata is also attached to the cerebellum with the help of inferior cerebellar peduncle. So there are three important peduncles over here. So this one is called as superior cerebellar peduncle, and this one over here is called as middle cerebellar peduncle, and this one over here is called as your inferior cerebellar peduncle. So there are three cerebellar peduncles over here, right? Superior cerebellar peduncle, middle cerebellar peduncle, and inferior cerebellar peduncle. And this cavity, whatever you can see here, see this cavity which I'm highlighting right now, right? So this cavity, whatever you can see here, this is called as a cavity of the fourth ventricle. Okay, this is called as a cavity of the fourth ventricle. Now in this cavity of the fourth ventricle, if you very clearly observe over here, if you very clearly observe, right, so this entire part, whatever I'm drawing here, this becomes the roof of the fourth ventricle, and this entire part becomes the floor of the fourth ventricle. So can I tell that this is your pons, and pons is forming a part of the floor of fourth ventricle, right? Not only pons, even your medulla oblongata is also forming a part of the fourth ventricle, right? A part of the floor of fourth ventricle. So the upper part of the floor of the fourth ventricle is formed by pons. The lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle is formed by medulla oblongata. Okay, so laterally this is how the pons looks. First of all, let us discuss about what are the different kinds of borders is the pons having. What are the different kinds of borders is the pons having? Pons basically has got three different types of border. One is called as superior border, one is called as inferior border, another one is called as a lateral border. Okay, so we have got superior border. Next we have got the inferior border, and then we have got lateral border. Now when it comes to lateral border, there are two lateral borders. One lateral border is on the right and the other lateral border is on the left. So there are two lateral borders over here, one on the right and one on the left. Second important thing after the borders, we will discuss that pons is having surfaces. So how many surfaces is the pons having? Two surfaces. One is on the front, one is on the back. So which is on the front is called as the anterior surface. Front is called as the anterior surface, which is on the back is called as the posterior surface. So anterior surface, another one is a posterior surface. So we have got two surfaces over here, anterior surface, another one is a posterior surface. Okay. Now what we shall do is that we shall discuss the anterior surface of the pons. What are the external features that are located on the anterior surface of the pons? Okay, anterior surface is also called as a ventral surface. So we shall discuss about the external features of anterior surface of the pons. So what are the external features of the anterior surface of the pons? So what is the anterior surface is also called as? Anterior surface is also called as your ventral surface. Anterior surface is also called as your ventral surface. Okay. So let us look at this picture right now. So first of all, I will start drawing from the midbrain onwards. So let us say that this is your midbrain. If you have watched my lecture already on the midbrain, it would be easy for you to understand. So here in this midbrain, we have got two crus cerebri, right? So one is called as a right crus cerebri and the other one is called as a left crus cerebri. Next, beneath this, we have got this particular structure just beneath the midbrain. This structure which I am drawing right now is called as your pons. Okay. Next, just beneath the pons, here we have got another structure which I am drawing like this. So this structure is called as your medulla oblongata. Okay. So this particular structure over here is called as your medulla oblongata. Okay, this particular structure over here is called as your medulla oblongata. Now, in this particular picture, this center picture, whatever you can see, is what is called as your pons. Okay, so you see this center picture over here. This center picture over here is called as your pons. And if you closely observe in this pons, you see on either side of the pons there are two elevations, which I am drawing right now in this way. Yeah. So there are two bumpy elevations which I am drawing right now. So these bumpy elevations which are located on either side, right? They are located on the either side, right? If they are located on the either side, that is not the concern here. The important concern is that in the center, I have left the space in between, right? So this space which I left in between in the center, you see this entire space, whatever I have left in the center, right? So this space over here is called as sulcus basilaris. This is called as sulcus basilaris. Why this is called as sulcus basilaris? Because this is the place where your basilar artery is present. This is the place where your basilar artery is present. Okay. Second important thing is that, as I've already told you in this particular picture, pons is attached to the cerebellum with the help of which peduncle? That is middle cerebellar peduncle. So from the front view, can you look at the middle cerebellar peduncle? No. But very partially you can just look at the middle cerebellar peduncle like this. So this is a partial view. Okay, so this is a partial view of middle cerebellar peduncle. And behind the midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata, what is the structure do we have? We have got this particular structure which is located behind that. This particular structure over here is called as your what? This is called as your cerebellum. So this particular structure which I am drawing right now is called as your cerebellum. So all of you know that cerebellum is located behind. Okay. So this particular structure over here is called as your cerebellum. And this particular structure is called as your what? This is called as your middle cerebellar peduncle. Middle cerebellar peduncle. So still, what are the features here? And as I've already told you, pons has got two borders, right? One is called as a superior border, another one is called as the inferior border. So this particular border which you can see on the top, right? So this particular border over here is called as the superior border of the pons. Okay, in the same way, this particular border with the green color which you can see on the bottom, this is called as your inferior border of the pons. Inferior border of the pons. Okay, and next important thing you have to know is that there are there is one cranial nerve with the two different roots that are coming out. For example, here there is the nucleus of one cranial nerve on either side. Just in front of that, there is the nucleus of another cranial nerve like this. Okay, so this cranial nerve which is passing all the way in this manner here, this is called as fifth pair of cranial nerve. Okay, and another cranial nerve which is in front of it like this, right? So this is also called as a fifth pair of cranial nerve, but the only difference is that the one which is more medially located, you see, this is the one which is more medially located. So the one which is more medially located is fifth pair of cranial nerve and it is a motor branch, and the one which is laterally located is a fifth pair of cranial nerve which is a sensory branch. Okay, what is the fifth pair of cranial nerve called as? Trigeminal nerve. So trigeminal nerve has got two branches. One is called as a motor branch of trigeminal nerve, another one is called as a sensory branch of trigeminal nerve. So sensory branch is little bit laterally located and the motor branch is little bit medially located. So the center one is called as your sulcus basilaris. Okay, so what are the external features which you have got here? In these external features, few important things to discuss, that this pons over here is having a superior border, it is having an inferior border, right? So this structure which is partially visible is called as your middle cerebellar peduncle. Next, this one over here is called as your cerebellum, and the center part is called as your sulcus basilaris, where the basilar artery is usually present. So if I have to draw this basilar artery, just look at this picture. See here, this is your right vertebral artery, right? This is your left vertebral artery. I have already discussed external carotid arteries and internal carotid artery branches. There I have discussed in detail. So right and left vertebral artery together, they join like this and they form this artery called as basilar artery. So this basilar artery passes within this sulcus basilaris. Okay. So this is all you need to know regarding the external features of the anterior surface of the pons, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.